Again, I know I did. So, but I'm excited. Glad to be back in the studio. Got a great rack of guests to talk to this week. Hope you enjoy hanging out and being a part of the conversation. Chat is open if you've got chat on the channel you're watching. If not, go to one of the other ones. I mean, my gosh, we're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Periscope, and Light Source. Not in that order, but you can go to any of those places and keep up with us. So today's guest is an up and coming musician. Uh, and let's see, he can't buy alcohol legally yet. So if that tells you anything, right? Not that he would. I'm not saying he would. But today's guest, I'll give you a little background. There's this guy named Jay DeMarcus. He's in this obscure little country band called Rascal Flatts. Maybe you heard of him. He decided to start a record label, and he one of the maybe the first guy. I'll have to ask Cade, but one of the early guys that he signed is Cade Thompson, and Cade is my guest today. Now, if you know anything about the music business, you got a guy who is in a successful band like Rascal Flatts who's decides he wants to develop some artists. If you've been to Nashville, just Nashville alone, forget LA, New York, and all the other places in between. You just go to Nashville, there is so much talent there. Literally, I have seen talent on the streets of Nashville that blows away most other cities, barring a few rare. But I'm just telling you, there's so much talent in Nashville. So to pick a guy, especially a kid, right? For us old guys, a kid, and say, this is the guy that I want to sign to my new record label, that tells you something very special is going on, and that's what's going on. So, with that long-winded introduction, Cade Thompson, welcome to Live Today Live. Great to have you, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, Randy. Super excited to chat with you. It's an honor, man.
So we got some new music, we got some new songs, we got some interesting topics, and I want to hit all those. But
Yeah.
first, how in the world did you get a record deal with, was it Red Street Records? Is that the name of Jay's? Yeah.
Red Street Records.
How'd that happen?
Man, so it was my summer after I graduated high school, and I remember I was making trips down to Nashville for about 4 years prior to that, talking to a bunch of different people, working with a producer. And I got a call one day, and my producer said, hey, there's this guy named Jay DeMarcus from Rascal Flatts, and he wants to have a meeting with you. And I was like, what? Are you kidding me? Jay DeMarcus from Rascal Flatts wants to meet with me. So how it happened was Jay got sent one of my songs that was called Provider, that at that point in time was an unreleased song. And he turned it up on the radio. He was in the car with his buddy Jason Sheff from the band Chicago, and they both said, we got to turn this song up. Who is this kid? And that's how that all happened. That's how they heard my music. And I took that meeting, and let me tell you, I'm so thankful that I took that meeting because now I'm where I'm at today.
Okay, so you're not doing just straight country music, you're doing contemporary Christian music, right?
That's right. Yep.
So why I'm curious why, do you know why Jay decided to go that route? Is he doing some secular country as well? Is he trying to just kind of
Yeah.
broaden his impact?
Yeah, it's a great question. So back in the day, Jay was actually a part of a band called East to West.
Oh yeah.
And Jay, it was a Christian band back in the day. And Jay has always had a heart for Christian music. And that band kind of ended and started this band called Rascal Flatts, which ultimately took off. And I knew that Jay has mentioned to me that Christian music has always been in his heart for years, and it was just the right time. And God put it on his heart to start this label, and he began to open up doors. And it's been really cool just to see God work through that and him. And I'm so thankful for the friendship and the partnership that we have. I mean, it's just amazing to learn from him.
Yeah, no, that's a huge opportunity. So what's happened since then for you? What's it look like?
Yeah, so I launched my career last year, 2020, one of the greatest years to launch an artist career. But I really am thankful. I remember I signed in fall of 2019, and those first 6 to 8 months were a lot of just writing and developing. And last year in February, right before the pandemic hit, we released my debut single. It was called Provider, the one that Jay first heard, and we were pushing it to radio, and just been so cool. We put out my other second radio single called Every Step of the Way. It was my first top 20 song on
Nice.
Billboard, which is so exciting. And we're on my new radio single right now called Source of Life, and we've put a lot of other songs out leading up to the record that's going to be dropping this fall. So I'm super
Okay.
excited.
All right. So here's the website, Cade Thompson Music, and you can go listen to Source of Life. As soon as this interview's over, don't do it yet. I guess you can pause it if you're watching on the replay, but you definitely want to check it out because you want to hear Cade. I think you'll hear what Jay and his friend from an old band that I grew up listening to called Chicago, what they heard, which is really some just raw talent that they decided they want to invest in and develop. So, Cade being that raw talent, what have you brought to the table in the way of lyrics? Because I know you're hitting some pretty heavy topics.
Yeah, man, that's a great question. I love writing. I love writing because it truly does tell a story and all that I do. And when I write my songs, I try to look back on my life and I try to find stories and then I try to see God and his faithfulness in those stories. And how can I point that to a message of hope in each song that I write? And so that's what's really this whole record has been about, which I'm super excited for people to hear. I wrote actually over 100 songs for this debut album,
Jeez.
and there was a lot of just growth in that process. And someone once told me back in the day that writing is like a muscle. As you write, you begin to shape who you are, you begin to shape your heart for your artistry. And man, I remember 3 years ago hearing that and kind of saying, do I really have to write more songs? And I just kept going after it. And I'm so thankful because I really feel like the message of this record is the message that I want this world to hear.
That's actually very, very true. It's true for whatever kind of writing you're doing, but if you don't flex that muscle, it starts to get weak. Do you do you look back at some of your early writing and cringe like most of us tend to do?
You know what? Yes. Yes, I do. But I think we can all relate to that no matter what career you're in. You see those things 20 years ago, or, for me, it was like 5 years ago. And I just look back, wow, that really happened. But it made me to the person that I am today. And I'm so
Right.
thankful.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because then you start to see, okay, that what that guy said about having to write and write and write is actually true because you do see that you get better. So
Exactly.
that's very cool. Now you sat down with one of I think one of the greatest storytellers in music today, and that guy I've had the privilege of meeting and interviewing several times. That's Matthew West. That
Yes,
guy knows how to tell a story.
man.
What was that
Matthew,
like?
so talented. Man, a couple years ago, I started writing with Matthew a little bit, and just so thankful for him and his belief in me. And really, he has shaped a lot of who I am as an artist today. I looked up to artists like him and Toby Mac and
Hmm.
Phil Wickham growing up. I feel like they've all really set an example for Christian music and saying something fresh, saying something different throughout the years. And as culture is changing, their message is meeting people in culture and where it's at, and finding Jesus in those moments and stepping into that space and telling those stories. And so learning from someone like Matthew, we've gotten to write a couple songs together that are actually going to be on my album, which I'm very excited about. It was a dream come true, man.
Yeah, no doubt. Now, one of the things that you guys talk about are school shootings. I mean, that's not your upbeat, feel good kind of topic. What made you go
Right.
that route? That's a tough one.
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I was a senior in high school, I remember walking into my high school just like any other day. And that day there was actually a school shooting threat at my school. And
Jeez.
I remember just that fear that I felt in that moment. It felt so real, man. And thankfully, at the end of that day, all of us students ended up going home safe. It wasn't a credible threat, but the fear that I felt in that moment felt so real. And I began to chat with my mom and process what I had felt and how growing up in today's world, a school shooting threat had been one of my biggest fears growing up, honestly.
Hmm.
And it all stemmed from when I was 5 years old. My mom and I were dropping off my sister at middle school, and there was actually an active shooter at her school. And
Mm.
I remember living through that at a young age. And fast forward to a senior in high school, this non-credible threat happened at my school, and I already had this writing session set up with Matthew West, and I had this phrase "new normal." This was in 2018. This phrase "new normal," and I knew that I wanted to write a song that could point back to hope, a hope for new normal, and that's why I wrote the song.
You know, as a parent, I got four kids, all of them older than you, which makes me feel really old. But that's not the point of this interview. But we, as you know, as a kid growing up, man, all the in Texas, half the guys had guns in their cars or hanging from the rack in their pickup trucks. So we weren't scared of guns, and you didn't think that somebody would come in and start shooting people. But as a parent, man, just you see these things on the news, and you feel helpless. My gosh, my kid could be in a school, and some nutcase go in there and start shoot. It's I think it's one of the most nerve-wracking. It's torment. Just the idea of what could happen from a parent standpoint, and I can't even imagine being the one, doing the drill or the this might be real kind of thing in the school. What your generation? How has that hit them? I mean, what did you see in the other students uh, that you need? You feel like you need to address it and offer them some hope. Is it? I don't know. What do you even say? What do you see?
Man, that's a great question. As I've processed this song and this topic with a lot of friends and people, it's interesting how different generations kind of have different fears, right? I know that for my mom, as I was talking with her, the idea of a school shooting threat wasn't even in her mind growing up. And I feel like students nowadays face a lot of different fears and struggles with, anxiety due to social media and comparison. And honestly, I've felt a lot of those same struggles with social media in my own life. And this song, New Normal, really is a hope for a new normal to hopefully take our eyes off of ourselves and our culture that so easily, due to our phones and all of these things,
Hmm.
it's so easy to focus back on us. But man, if we can focus on the people around us and loving them well, and ultimately as a believer myself, loving like Jesus and stepping into those spaces, that's where we can see the new normal, the hope for a new normal and the change. And
Yeah.
that's why I wrote this song, man.
Yeah, no, man, that's good. That shows some maturity on your part. We weren't worried about school shootings. We were worried about the Soviet Union dropping nuclear bombs on us, but that's a whole different story. Um,
That's a whole different story.
yeah, that's just the okay. Here's some musician questions that I like to ask
Yep.
you guys
Yep.
that stand on stage. Best part of recording.
Best part of recording. Okay, so funny story. Actually, back in the day, I used to kind of be a little intimidated of the whole recording process. I would, kind of overcomplicate it. I would get in there. It's got to be this, this, this. And now there's so much freedom of just stepping in the recording studio and knowing that it's art, man. I can do whatever I want. And if it's not great, awesome. But if it turns out awesome, that's such a magical moment. And when those magical moments happen in the studio, it's the coolest thing ever. And so I think for me, learning how to just let go in the studio and sing and be is the best.
What's the worst part?
The worst part about recording or being an artist?
Studio recording.
Studio. Oh, man, that's a hard question. Probably it's so easy to get so picky about every single detail.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
oh, I hear this,
yeah,
I don't like this, I don't like this. It's so easy to overcomplicate it. So
yeah,
just go in there level headed.
yeah. That's true. All right. Touring. What's you? How much have you toured? I know you've done some.
I actually started touring when I was a sophomore in high school. So
Dang.
I've been touring for quite a little bit now.
All right. What's your best road story? What's the story you tell the other guys in the studio while you're waiting on the bass player to lay down some licks or something?
Oh man. Okay, so an embarrassing story. I don't know if you're ready
What's the
for this.
best? This is the best.
They're the best. Okay, so I was probably 17 at the time, and I had band guys up there on stage, and there were these BMX ramps at this festival. And I thought it would be a great idea, man, to get on one of those BMX ramps and jump off. And so I did, and I actually ripped my pants. Thankfully, no one saw because I was wearing the long, awesome hipster shirts.
Yeah.
I found that out later after the show. That was definitely one of the most embarrassing moments I've ever had on stage.
So you did the rest. You did the rest of the show not knowing.
Exactly. So for all I know, somebody might have known, but I didn't know.
Yeah. Well, with social media, I think you would have found out one way or the other if somebody.
That's true.
So you're probably safe. Probably safe.
I think I'm safe.
So when you're on stage and you're singing one of these songs about hope, about
Yeah.
faith, about Jesus, Have you ever seen somebody in the audience where you can tell God's doing something in their life through your music?
Yeah, man. That's the coolest thing about what I get to do. There's been so many stories this year alone of God using power of music to reach people. One story in particular, there's a man named Ryan who heard my song on the radio, and he had recently suffered from stroke, and he was not functional really, and the doctors, it wasn't looking that probable for him to kind of rehabilitate. And he heard my song every step of the way, and he wanted that song to be his song for his whole medical journey.
Mm.
And there was a whole team around him praying for him. I sent a message out to my followers and fans to pray for Ryan. And fast forward a couple months ago, I actually got to do a concert in Ryan's hometown. He's walking, he's driving,
Wow.
he's talking,
Wow.
just an absolute miracle. And to look out, man, in that crowd and see him in the front row is the coolest thing ever, man, because God used the power of music, and it wasn't anything that I can do. It was all Jesus shining through in that moment. And that was the coolest moment so far this year.
Well, your part is obedience, hearing voice of God just to lead you in a day by day way and obeying, and that's what God loves to do. He loves to use people to reach other people. That's very cool that you're part of that. For people that don't know the song, what is the message? What are some of the lyrics?
Yeah, so the song Every Step of the Way, I actually wrote it as I graduated high school in 2019. At this point in time when I was writing the song, I didn't have a record deal at all. I was just trying to trust God, saying, hey, I'm going to choose to trust you every step of the way. You'll be working everything for the best for me. So I'm going to trust in who you are every step of the way. That's the message of the song, and that's ultimately what Ryan was singing over his life, which is the coolest thing ever, man.
Yeah, and you know that there's a lot of depth in that. I don't know. I mean, I think you realize it, but so many people they want the grand vision for their lives, and God goes, just let me give you that daily bread. Just let's work on that daily bread. Trust me, day by day, and every step of the way. And he'll. Yeah, I love Amy Grant sang a psalm years ago when I was a kid. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. Right? Maybe you've heard that old one.
Yeah.
Read the psalm. And the thing about a lamp, I don't know, uh, you spent some time in Idaho, and yeah, Franklin's not bad. I don't know if you ever gone outside at night by lamplight.
Yeah.
You know that you can't see very far.
Yeah, you really can't.
You literally, it's like step by step.
Yep.
And I think a lot of times we expect God just to turn on the floodlights and put a little marker at the end of our path, and off we go. And when He says turn right, we turn right. We can see the whole thing, but it's step by step, man. You're doing that. You're doing that right now. You're doing step by step, and it's working out for you. Tell us a little bit about what you got coming up in the way of releasing the new album and touring to support that.
Yeah, well, I'm so thankful to be back out on the road after a year of spending time in this room right here, writing songs and singing to people on camera. It feels so good to be in front of people now, and just so cool to see people's faces and smiles and how God is moving in their lives. And this fall, I'm actually going to be going on tour with the Newsboys, Mandisa, and We Are Messengers. It's going to be an amazing tour. We're going to be all across the South, and so I'd love to see people out there. It's going to be a blast. And then this weekend, I'm going to Wisconsin. I got a show, and I'm basically out every weekend for most of the year. So I'm super, super thankful.
I take it you're not going to college at this point.
I'm not. I went to college for a half a semester online, and I realized I don't have any time for that. Nothing against it,
Right.
but I just had no time for it. So.
Nah, I don't think you need. Hey, buddy, tell Jeff from the Newsboys I said hello, the keyboard player. So.
Oh, I will.
Yeah, he's supposed to go to a hockey game with me, but it's been years, and he just hadn't done it. These musicians, they run around the country, around the world, and they just get busy. But it's all good.
Are you a big hockey guy?
I am a big hockey guy. Are you a hockey guy?
I am. I like the Predators, the Nashville Predators.
I'm sure you do, and I'm in Dallas, right?
Yeah.
So, true story. Gosh, it's been, I don't know, 3-4 years now. When the Stars knocked the Preds out of the playoffs.
Yep.
the day after they knocked him out, I was flying to Nashville and had an event in Nashville and then some down south for a few days. And I decided I was going to wear my Stars T-shirt on the airplane and then to lunch. And that drew some really dirty looks.
Yeah.
And a little hostility, actually. And I totally understand, but it was fun.
Hey, to each their own. You go ahead and wear that Stars shirt in Nashville, but
I've been to the arena Bridgestone there many times and see the team I've seen the most other than the Stars, because I'm a season ticket holder, so I see a lot of the Stars. The team I've seen the most after that is Nashville. So fun team to watch.
Yeah, great team.
We went down a rabbit trail. All right, back to the music. So the singles are out now, and do you have a date on the whole album? Do you know? Or are you doing a whole album?
I am doing a whole album.
Okay.
It's not officially out yet, but it'll be out this fall. Can't say a date yet, but we're really excited about it. So.
All right. So the website again, cadethompsonmusic.com, Source of Life. Single people can listen to it, download it, kind of thing right now. So definitely check that out. Cade, appreciate you hanging out. Appreciate you having a conversation. Is there anything that you want to mention that I didn't touch on, whether it's in the way of what you got going on, ways for people to connect with you, or just a message that's on your heart?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for hanging out with me today.
Yeah,
I've loved our conversation, man. And, a verse that I really take to heart is John 16:33. And Jesus said, when you have trouble, not if. He said, when you have trouble, take heart, for I have overcome the world. And I know that for a lot of people right now in this world, it's dark, it's hard times, but we have a God that wants to walk with us in the middle of those hard times. And that's where our hope can be found. And that's why I wrote this song, New Normal. That's why I write the music that I write, because I've found that there's such power in following Jesus and proclaiming those truths over our lives. And that's why I do what I do. And it's so awesome, man.
And okay, and here's what I love about what you're doing. You're 20, right? I got 4 kids in their 20s. I can say these things all day long to my kids, and they don't hear it from their 50-year-old dad, right? But they'll hear it from you. God's message never changes, but he pours it out through all of us to reach specific people. And so you keep reaching those that God's put in front of you, and you're going to see some great things. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me. It's been a blast.
Oh, yeah. Appreciate all you guys hanging out and watching, hitting share. And by gosh, go check out the music right now. If you haven't heard Cade Thompson, you need to go hear him right now and buy his stuff. It'll help him. It'll support him, and it'll make him well, it won't make him rich. It will enable him, I should say, to do more and more, because he's not just singing songs, he's reaching people. So check that out. And if you haven't followed or subscribed Life Today TV, please do that now. More great interviews all week. We'll see you the rest of the week.